Welcome back to the Always Right podcast. We have a special Halloween edition today.
Yeah, I'm getting it on my notes right now so I can read it. No, I did read it this morning. I swear to you. I swear. Because this is a Halloween edition, and I was like, why aren't we talking about our favorite Halloween books? Why are we getting so in depth with Echoes of Authors Past? I was like, wait a minute. We just did a Halloween edition. And then I realized we've been doing this podcast for over a year, which we've already said that, but I'm like, it's just blowing my mind that I feel like we need to do one on our favorite, Steve, because I feel like I just talked to you about Stephen King, and that's forever ago.
Yes. And here when we like kind of brainstormed doing this podcast, we were like, will we have enough episodes? Will we have enough ideas? And sometimes when you think, and I know you think this because I can feel you, you're like, I don't think we're going to have very many episodes. I'm like, oh, but we got this, and this. And then you're like, oh, yeah. And then we could do this and this.
Well, even this morning, I said we need to do one on journaling. That's why I love running ideas by you. It's like, hey, I got a journal for my vocal workout. There's this workout. And you're like, hey, we need to talk about apps for text-to-speech to pull in for journaling and all that. And it's like, wow, yes, I don't think we'll ever run out of ideas. So
because we don't run out of ideas for books, so why would we run out of topics to talk about?
This is true. So again, this is a Halloween edition. Echoes of Authors Past. Ethos of
Your
Authors
ethos,
Past.
darling.
Ethos of Authors Past.
Oh, that's funny. And I got my dark, sultry voice for this episode.
So that's
Which
Batman.
you heard me last week. This is better.
I should have. I canceled last week because I was busy doing things, and you texted like, "Hear my voice. It's a good thing we didn't do it. Should have done it because that would have been cool."
Yes, and then you called me thinking I wanted to talk with his voice, and I'm like, "You just want to hear it in person."
All right. So, anyways, I was so flustered that I didn't realize it's been a year since that. I went to brush my teeth this morning, and my skin's really bad. I have skin disease. So I had A&D ointment. I was doing something because my fingers are splitting. We're getting cold. And I was rolling it up like a tube of toothpaste because I was about out.
Oh.
And my toothbrush was laying there. And I didn't do it. But I was like, wait a minute. That's not for my teeth.
No.
So, and here we are.
They make them shiny. Like them shining bright.
And you're like,
all right, yes. Halloween edition, but we're doing our new segments that we started. We've done one of these, and this is going to be our second installment of Echoes of Authors Past.
Yeah, these are interesting.
Now you're pouring your water into a glass and not drinking it straight from the jug?
I'm trying to be a little
civilized?
better. Yeah, kind of, not really. Anyways, I like these because the details that you dig up, just like we were discussing 3 authors today. In this first one, I had no idea that Horace Walpole.
Horace Walpole.
Okay, had no idea. I always thought it was Mary Shelley. Was like the first, was the inventor of horror, and so this is kind of cool. I'm like, all right.
Well, I mean, so these are the people that and I am giving these 3. We're talking about 3 authors: Horace Walpole, Mary Shelley, and then we're going to go into Edgar Allan Poe. Now, I'm choosing those 3 because there's so many more we can talk about. We can talk about them in future episodes, but we're just pulling these 3 in for a reason. Horace Walpole is given the credit for making this genre a piece of literature, not essentially the first writer of horror and scary. He's essentially the person who put it kind of on the map as a genre. Okay. And then we've got Mary Shelley, who I wanted to do a female. And then we have Edgar Allan Poe, who's given a lot of credit for being kind of mysterious and dark and, twisted. Where did it come from? Where did this horror genre come from, which we talked about in the year episode a year ago? Is kind of a lot comes from that, like the story, the oral traditions of stories.
Yeah, years ago, death, religion, demonic principles, anything that could, I guess, scare a person. Now that's
anything that's going to manifest fear.
Yep, and I kind of wonder, even with the witch trials, that started from lore.
Well, yeah, and so something from, and I'm going to pull this from my ASU education and from Dr. Daughtry in her class, Witchcraft and Heresy. One of the things that you learn about the church was when the people were walking in, there were all these gargoyles and these demonic things as they're walking in, things to kind of show them they had to walk into the church to be safe from those things in the outside world. It was very what's the word? What's the word I'm
Gothic.
looking for? No, it's kind of metaphoric.
Okay.
Yeah, in a sense, it was very metaphoric how, these things. So these things were created by imagination. A lot of times when witches were tried, they would hear other women saying what the devil looked like, and these things were always kind of given to them by their torturer. Like, oh, he had horns, didn't he? And they would say it, deny it, and then it'd be like, oh, he had hooves for feet. Yes, whatever to stop the torture, because they knew they were going to die. They just didn't want to be tortured any longer. A lot of that was just more like being put into their head, essentially. Oh, that's a whole other. What are you beeping?
That's
You get-
my hydrogen water.
Oh, I thought you needed to flip your pancakes.
No. Oh, shoot. I'll be right back. No. I think of like vampires, werewolves, ghosts, and how they came like, I heard something. We'll make up a tale. Someone just died, and then the pot fell off. It's got to be them. They haven't left. They're in the spirit realm. Or werewolves, I'm sure somebody was mauled by a wolf, and then they try to tie it and make it into a horror thing. Vlad the Impaler, vampires. So a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I digress. Let's get back on point because
Yes.
this author wrote a book called The Castle, or I can't even read. I can't see. Otranto.
Thank you, darling.
That may not be right. My glasses are dirty too.
Otranto.
So this book was published in 1764 and considered a Gothic novel, which laid the groundwork, of course, for that. So this is a tale.
That's what it's considered because of the
time,
the style of architecture and the time. But as I read this, because I went through and read this, I feel like, and I put this in notes, I feel like it's more like almost like a paranormal fantasy.
I mean, I didn't read it, but taking your notes and seeing like the tragic death of the son, and then the father is married. He decides to marry the bride to be.
Well, he doesn't actually marry the bride. So okay, yeah,
because that's his decision.
Yeah.
But then the curse is upon the family, and
there's curses. Yeah, there's curses. Which I mean, there's curses, but there's a lot of like imagery and ghost type action happening, and this awful father, he wants to get his son married because he's basically gonna die. He's got this illness. But it's more of like a sci-fi fantasy because there's a lot of intermixing of some of the Gothic stuff and the curses and the ghosts and things like that. But at the time, it may have been scary. It may have been considered very scary, and this guy put this on the map as being that type of genre. He kind of set the groundwork for some of the more darker works that we're familiar with.
Because everybody else is like, that's a good book. Now hold my beer because we're going to get really scary.
Yeah. Oh gosh, my notes. I'm reading my phone, where I keep the tabbing over more and more about a subject. It's like so long.
I know. That's why I got to turn it horizontal. I was like, it was one vertical line, like Borton in September.
I was like, what in the world? Yes.
Flip it to landscape. It'll fix it.
All right, let's talk about Horace himself. He was born September 24th of 1770. His parents were Sir Robert Walpole and Catherine Walpole, an English writer, historian, and politician who's best known for pioneering this
Gothic novel.
This genre of horror. But he was the youngest son, and I actually put in some of his siblings because there was something about they lost a couple of their kids, which was very common back then. But he had 5 other siblings, and one of them, she married someone named Charles Churchill, a military officer and politician. But I went down another rabbit hole. This is not related to Winston Churchill. Yeah, so I didn't realize there's different elite groups of Churchills in that area, and he was not a part of this one. He was a part of the another group that was like of dukes and like all these kind of things. But that's kind of cool. But anyways, his youngest son, or not his youngest son, the youngest. What am I saying here? I'll have to delete this part where I'm having a brain fart.
I love it. I think you need to leave it in there. I know Edward Walpole.
It's in there.
One of his sons was a politician.
Well, yeah, but the dad was one of the prime ministers. Walpole's dad. I cannot. What the flip? His dad was one of the prime ministers of Great Britain. Is what I was trying to say. Yeah.
So
Anyway.
I know it's funny how you see a family, because I could see like his sisters dying, because he had another sister, who died young, Mary, and so to me it feels like this kind of influenced his story,
Yeah.
with the
Well,
young.
his sister Mary and Catherine both died young.
Yep.
Apart from his literary contributions, he was also known for his correspondence between like the social and political landscape, which I feel like a lot of men were. It was almost like that was kind of a thing. If you weren't a military person per se, you were more into the social aspects of politicians. There wasn't much other for them to do in that 18th century England.
Unless you were a farmer.
Right. He never married. So therefore, he spent a significant part of his life dedicating to a lot of his correspondence and collecting artifacts, and he had a lot of friendships and literary likes in that social scene that he was in.
Yeah, so, it seems like a lot. It's funny. We in the other episode of Authors Past, so many people knew so many people. It seemed like a smaller circle than what you would think. Like, no wonder they were influenced to write.
The original writing communities, the original like aspiring authors groups.
Yeah, they were tight.
Yeah, yeah. He had a fascination with this whole genre and this era, so that's kind of what kept him in that mind frame of writing. He died in March of 1797, which is, I think, the same year when he died was the last time that group of like earls, because they were earls of Orford, his family, and that year when he died, his genealogy of like his direct line through his dad, his oldest brother, like they no longer had the Earl of that Orford, and then like his cousins had to take up the reign like 2 or 3 more times. It's like weird. I don't know. It's all that politics of queens and earls and dukes.
I would love to find a description, because he had that place called Strawberry Hill, and his house was like all Gothic, like a villa. And I'm like, first thing I think of was like Addams Family or something, which I know it's not what it was, but like, what were some of his artifacts? I'm sure it would look really cool.
Well, it probably would look like a lot of things we have collected in the backdrop of our scenes.
Yep, it's true.
And like some books and like different things like that. But when I think of Strawberry Hill, I think it's so pleasant and nice. I'm not thinking Gothic, but apparently it was a very Gothic looking place. It kind of had that whole Addams Family feel for it.
Yep, I dig it.
Yes.
Every year, my wife's like, we got to go to Salem. We got to go to Salem just to look at that type of architecture.
Yes.
So,
all right. Well, there's, like I said, there's not much on him as far as tried to look up some fun facts about him. There wasn't a lot because, like, again, he didn't have kids. He wasn't married. He was in the social scene. But other than that, there wasn't a ton other than his work. All right. Now on to Mary Shelley.
My favorite
Mary
of the 3.
Shelley.
Yes.
And I've got Mary Shelley right here.
Yes, and just for those watching, Frankenstein is not the monster.
Yes.
For once in your life, get it right.
I feel like that's been out there long enough that people, for the most part, are getting that right.
I hope so. It even drove me nuts as a teenager.
But I mean, I guess people are like, oh, I'm going to be Frankenstein, but they dress up as the monster. I'm like, you're just the
Frankenstein.
Monster. Have you ever watched Frankenweenie?
I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
But the one comedy, I can't remember, Son of Frankenstein, or it had a couple comedians in it back in the late 70s. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, I can't. Now,
I was born in the late 70s, Jamie.
Oh, that's right. So, those of you watching this podcast, remind me what I'm talking about. Gene Wilder was in it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's I can't remember the name of it now.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. I've seen. Yes. Is it black and white? Isn't it?
Yes, and it's pronounced Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I remember.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
All right. So since she's your favorite, I'm going to let you lead this one.
Well, I don't have my glasses on because they're dirty, but her name was Mary Wollstonecraft, and I'm sure I'm saying that wrong.
Well, that was her birth name.
Yes.
She didn't have a pen name.
But I know, because Mary Shelley is like the freaking perfect pen name, and this sounds like it'll be made up. It's great. So she was born
Yeah.
in 1759, died in 1797. She didn't live a long life. That sucks, but we just talked about how children died young. She was
Hmm.
a prominent feminist writer and philosopher, best known for her book, A Vindication of the
That's her
Rights.
mother.
That's her. Yeah, I'm getting ready to say. Wait a minute, I'm reading this wrong. Yes,
That's her. I was
because
like, this
that's
is
her
her
mom.
mom.
Yeah, because I was reading your notes earlier. Don't take this out, because I love how I mess up like this. This is what shocks me, because her dad was into writing too. But the fact that, I wonder, it's almost like back in the day, I felt like you were born into it. Your parents influenced you. My father
Mhm.
was an author in this, so she
Well,
was
it
let.
still happens in a lot of cultures where it's my parents are doctors, so I have to be a doctor.
Yeah.
No,
So again, let me start over again. This was her mother, which she didn't live long, because I don't think she lived much longer after Mary was born.
no, she died after Mary was born.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
wow. But she was an author herself, A Vindication of the Rights of Women, in which she advocated for women's education and equality. And I'm sure, like, if you've read Frankenstein, you can see it's very along those lines. Even though it's a horror
Hmm.
story,
Hmm.
she's greatly influenced by it. So even though Mary died shortly after Mary's birth, her legacy as a leading feminist, philosopher, and author impacted Mary's views on women's rights and education. Hey, I got that right, even though I read it earlier. I remembered that. We studied this in school. Her father was William Godwin, 1756 to 1836. He was a political philosopher, and he was a novelist as well. He's credited with founding modern philosophical anarchism. Anarchism, I can't even talk. His notable works include Political Justice and Things as They Are, or The Adventures of Caleb Williams. I really need to wear my glasses. Through him, Mary was exposed to radical ideas and discussions about politics, ethics, and society. And I mean, like I said, it greatly influenced her book, and rightly so. I'm happy. She
Yeah.
had several siblings. She had a half sister named Fanny M. Loy. I can't even read. Who was the daughter of her mother.
Emily.
Yeah, Imlay. See, I'm going to put on these dirty glasses. I can
Yeah.
see now, but it's just dirty. Uh, she was the daughter of her mother. Now, Fanny's father, American businessman Gilbert Imlay. Imlay, I did it again. That was her father. Mary. So I'm kind of confused about this. So I wonder if her mother was married and he
Had
passed away.
probably.
Okay, because we get down here, there's some juicy stuff in a couple of these. I'm like, wait a minute, this is kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, that's the thing. Yeah, they were ahead of their time for sure.
Well, I mean, I think back when my mom was pregnant with me in 68, 69, and she's like, "Oh, you can't be that. We're going to burn." I'm like, "Man, they're getting it on back in the 1700s." And I was like, I'm reading your notes. I'm like, "What?"
Hmm.
So Mary also had a full brother named William, and additionally, she had a half brother named Charles, who was the son of William Godwin and his second wife, Mary Jane Claremont.
He married two Marys.
Oh, he did. Mary. He must have a thing. He's like,
And he got his
here's my
daughter
thing.
Mary.
Yeah.
There's Mary, Mary, Mary.
Mary.
Yes.
Fortunately, Mary lost Fanny and William at a young age, and her relationships with her siblings were complex and fraught with challenges. She had an unconventional upbringing, and she was heavily influenced, of course, by her parents' intellectual circles. And she was educated at home, and she had access to influential writers. And this is where I'm talking before. I'm like, wow. You mean I wish I had grown up with influential singers, from a young age, and doing this.
Okay, but you say that, but here's the thing. You got to realize people back then didn't have the radio and the internet to where they can access some of these influential people. You have access to these people. You had records, you had 8 tracks.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah, but I
had
mean, like, personal, like, they were there. I feel like I know what you're saying, but I'm like, there's all these people in the world, and it just seems like some of the authors we've discussed, like all these amazing authors who were published, were right around them, and these children were
Mhm.
listening to this author and grew up, and then they wrote an amazing book or a series of books. So,
Yeah, but I
so
mean, I feel like back then to get the word out, those people were more in the public eye, because they wouldn't have been able. I mean, they couldn't sit at home and push their books out through Amazon and through social media. They had to be out in the world and putting themselves through these different social communities.
so they had to get on that horse, literally. and go from
Jamie,
town to
what are
town.
you doing to your screen?
I'm not doing anything. I'm just excited.
Your screen is jumping jacks.
It's my iPad.
Oh. Well, why are you shaking it?
Oh, because I was getting excited in the table. All right.
Gosh.
Wait a minute. All right. So.
Oh yeah, so Mary, she wrote a book when she was 10. I mean, that was pretty ahead of her times.
Hey, I know somebody else wrote a book even a younger age than that. Catherine's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
young authors go.
Didn't we talk about this? So Jeff Rivera and I both did this too when we were kids because we were both in the TAG program.
Oh yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. But she wrote a book at 10 years old. It was titled "The Magic Instantane."
Oh my gosh! Why did I put you in charge of reading?
I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm too hyper.
Today.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with me in this lifetime. The story reflects her early interest in storytelling and imaginative narratives. Although the magic is not as well known as her later works, it marks the beginning of her writing journey. I love that. You know, you're writing at a young age and it just grows. So she was an English novelist, best known for her groundbreaking work. You already know this, Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. And you, like you said, that was not her pen name. That's cool,
Mary Shelley. Well, Mary Shelley was her married name.
Yeah, it was her married name, and I love it. But she was
pause.
You got the monkey book.
Yes, so author Catherine Horsley, her daughter, Scarlett Horsley. Her book is Mr. Monkey and the Dragon.
Yes.
Yes. Very cute.
Yeah, proud of her.
She should probably. I know there's those companies that you can go to and have your image printed into a stuffed animal. She should have the monkey and the dragon made into merchandise.
Oh, we need to text her later and tell her that. That is a brilliant idea.
I have a couple of those.
Yes, I have one every once in a while. So here's one really quick. Okay, I'll put it back down because you can't see it yet. It's not released.
Oh,
so you already know. But
I already know, yeah.
So again, she was born Mary Wollstonecraft Godwin and became known as Mary Shelley after marriage to the poet Percy Bysshe Shelley in 1816. Like attracts like. You know, and she had a pretty complex relationship with her father. I don't think she was too happy with Percy. You know, he disapproved of their union, which caused a big rift between them for many, many years. And I got to remember, is he the one, was it when she started dating him? Yeah, it's right here. He was married. So she started dating him when she was like 16. And I was 18, 14, and he was married. So I'm like, I'd like to know more details about that. But then eventually they eloped in France. And while their relationship was passionate, it was great. But they did have a lot of hardships, and they too had deaths of their own children.
Yeah, so their children had passed. So here's the thing. So we talk about, I mean, you know, poets become poets or authors beget authors. But like if her parents had these, you know, relationships and stuff, I'm not really sure if it was like, you know, married and then dating and like all these things, but she's like, hey, it's fine. He's married. I'm going to have
swingers. We got swingers. Oh no.
Stop. No, but like apparently there was a love affair Mary Shelley was having. I try to dig up some dirt, you know, a little bit of stuff. Wait till we get to Edgar Allan Poe because I'm like, I'm not sure if I love this guy anymore.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I'm a big fan.
The Enlightenment and Romanticism, the intellectual climate of the time influenced by Enlightenment ideas about science and reason, as well as romantic ideals about nature, emotion, and the individual's relationship with society, deeply affected the way that she wrote. And she loved to explore themes of creation and the consequences of defying natural balance. What is wrong with me today? I'm telling you.
I'm going to take over because I feel like you're in
natural boundaries. You know what? It was 9:30 when we started. She's like, "Are you alive?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm alive. I'm ready to go." Yes, I'm alive. That's perfect for this segment.
That is so funny.
Anyway, she liked the consequences of defying. I'm done.
Okay, I'm taking over. I'm taking over.
Yes, I'll say something in a minute.
So just to recap, we are talking about the things of the period that were kind of her big inspiration for Frankenstein. Yes, the romanticism of the Enlightenment, you know, that he was talking about. But like also, if you think about her personal life, she experienced a lot of death. She experienced a lot of like subsequence of feelings of trying to want to have your loved one back. You know, that desire that brings something back to life that is dead. So the reanimation of life, which is kind of cool because she had all this in her mind, a lot of the romanticism, all things that are happening. She had that spirit of travel and adventure for going throughout Europe. She traveled. Her travels provided this influence of area, seeing probably a lot of the Gothic stuff that may not have been exactly in her location. But it also helped her when she was trying to create imagery for the doctor in this, and seeing the different types of people.
Yeah, and she was in the right time, born in the right time, because with the way scientific advancement was starting to happen,
There's a
and
lot of experimentation. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
so the ethical responsibility, which I guess don't cross over.
I'm gonna have to give you a stabilization thing for your table
I
with your
just, yeah,
iPad.
you know what? I got a way to do it. I had to get something else and lock it up, and I'll move it back, and
Hang it from your ceiling so when
I
you're
won't do that.
pounding on the table,
Then
you're
it'll
thinking
just
like,
swing. I'll be swinging my hands in air, or the air will come on, and it'll start rocking back. But I'll just do this with it, so we'll be
well,
good.
you already have ants in your pants.
I do.
All right.
All right.
All right, so let's talk about the summer of 1816. This actually is what brought to pass Frankenstein.
Yep.
Which when I think of this itself should be a movie. This experience, like what brought it to pass, should be like this kind of a ghostly story of these writers getting together, essentially, to produce, like, let's see who can write the best story. So it was the summer of 1816. Most notable influence was the summer she spent there and on the shores of Lake Geneva with her husband Percy and Lord Byron and some others. I'm assuming they were all kind of in the same social circle of writers. Yeah. This is your swingers club you were talking about. I'm
exactly.
kidding.
Writing swingers club.
Due to poor weather, they were confined indoors, leading them to discuss about science, philosophy, questions about life, and ghost stories. During this time, Byron proposed a contest to write the best ghost story, which prompted Mary to conceive her idea for Frankenstein. Imagine it's gloomy, there's lightning happening, and they're already talking about ghost stories, so they're talking about dead or the dead. They're talking about all these philosophies of life and experimentation with life and all that stuff. So it's kind of like building up in her spirit to where it's like, okay, now who can write a story? And she came up with Frankenstein, which was genius of her time, of a woman. But so collectively, she was able to this inspired Frankenstein that delves into the complexities of life and life afterwards and reanimating life, and the ethical implications. I mean, I feel like that was extremely ahead of her time because this monster was innocent, and yet people were looking at it as this monster and it had to die. It's this evil thing when all it was trying to do was the right thing, protect.
Yeah, but even that, thinking about the ethical considerations of it, we're not gods, and here you are bringing something back to life.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the best known horror books of all times. It's sad that it's great that's her favorite book, but you would think she could have had a series of great books, and that was like really her peak, even though she continued to write and do novels and essays.
She wrote novels and essays and biographies after that, but for the most part of her life, so her husband, let's talk about that. He died
6 years after she conceived
he drowned. And so she again lost. She struggled with this, and sadly she struggled with financial challenges. You hate to hear that because it's such a great story that has preceded time, and she probably would have made tons of money.
Yeah, and I wonder, because I know that her husband was a poet. He was a writer as well, and I know she went on to promote his works and edit some stuff. And I'm not saying this is the case, but I wonder if it was like, let's be honest, back then, women authors weren't as prominent, which is bull. So Was that also helping to keep her financially afloat because people
Well,
knew this poetry?
there were a lot of women writers, though. The problem was they weren't as well
Received. They weren't like promoted as they should have been.
right. Yes, because of but there were a lot of women who wrote that later their works were,
Yeah,
yeah,
which is stupid.
yeah, so stupid.
Yep.
So Mary Shelley spent her later years in the UK focusing on writing. She also did some editing, like you said, to her husband's poem and really sought to kind of promote his legacy. And so, anyways, so she promoted her husband's legacy, like I said, but then she ended up dying February 1st of 1851 at the age of 53. But I feel like a very full life for 53. Like the
Oh,
things that,
absolutely.
yeah.
But
Go ahead.
freaks me out though, because I'm 54. I got a lot to write still.
Yeah.
All right, and I need to get started on it, which we'll talk about in another episode.
Yeah. So next week's episode, was it next week? No.
Coming up,
we're recording an episode that we're gonna put a fire under your butt.
Yeah, I'll be tag teamed by two ladies saying, "Get this book done."
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna have Pseudo right on. They're gonna actually join us and go over some stuff. So that will be super exciting. Tune into that. All right. Now let's move on. Mary Shelley, her legacy endures, obviously, like I said today. And it just you hear Frankenstein, everybody knows what Frankenstein
absolutely yes
is, essentially, other than they don't realize sometimes it's the doctor, not the monster.
Yeah, well, she was definitely my favorite author when I was reading in high school. I know we're moving on, and I'm gonna get smacked for saying this. I just could never get into Edgar Allan Poe. Read quite a bit of it.
Yeah, so the only one that really I liked was The Raven. That is really the only one. I didn't really get into his stuff either. And now that I've got to know him on a different level, I don't know.
I know, but he's kind of like, it's kind of bizarre.
He's still an icon.
Yes.
Of darkness,
Yes, so
it's kind of like if Hannibal Lecter wrote a book. No.
Yes.
All right, so on to the next one.
Yes.
Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes, he was born in January 19th of 1809 in Boston, Massachusetts. I kind of said that right. I want to keep the flow going. Massachusetts. He was orphaned at an early age, but he was taken in by a wealthy Allen family of Richmond, Virginia. And he had a tumultuous relationship with his foster father, John Allen, who contributed to his lifelong financial struggles. So, yeah, and I know he briefly attended university, I believe it was in Virginia, but he left because of financial difficulties, and he ended up enlisting in the military, and he eventually left that too to pursue a career in writing. So I'm like, wow. Because nowadays it's like, you're on and we're trying to sell books and everything. It's like a lot of authors we meet like, well, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a school teacher, but I also write books. So back then, just to hear these, like, I'm leaving the military because I'm going to become a writer. I'm like, yes, that was kind of cool to me. What was not cool, and maybe
the next part.
Yes, but maybe it was more prominent. You think back in the times with farmers and stuff, I was still kind of weirded out. He was 27. And he married a 13-year-old, but hey, wait, it gets crazier.
But okay, but it says cousin, but he was orphaned.
Oh,
so
this
it may
is
not
true.
be his blood cousin. It might be just his cousin through the foster family.
No, see, that makes me feel a little better.
Well, no, I mean Darwin married his cousin.
Yes, Jerry Lee Lewis married his cousin.
And then
or Jerry Lewis.
Einstein.
One of those. Yeah, the piano player. Einstein?
Yes.
Really?
He married a relative, like a cousin or a sister. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it must have worked out because they loved each other. They got along great.
They had a fond, true, like relationship. Anyways.
But she died young. She was like 24.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so he became best known for his work as an editor and a literary critic, but found true success with his writing, particularly of his publications of The Raven in 1845, which garnered him national fame. And as I got to kind of go down the spiral of him, he was a raving madman, essentially.
Yeah.
that sometimes I felt like he put it in his work, but at the same time, he was very harsh with people. But anyways, reportedly, he had a pet cat named Katerina.
Katerina,
Katerina, yes,
which
yes.
sat on his shoulder when he wrote, so it was probably, if he was that nuts, he's probably, what did you say? Okay, I'll put that in my
That was
writing.
he just changed it to a raven.
Yes, that's
Well, I'll have to send you pictures of my cat the other day because when I was working on stuff, she jumped up on my lap and then she sat behind me and she's like smelling my hair. And then she sat on my notebook. And then I went into the bathroom to start doing my makeup to go to the volleyball game. And I just looked out to see if she was following me and she just kind of peered her head like, what are you doing? Like, where'd you go?
that's like common sense around here. I mean, we have too many cats. One cat is always on us. When I read earlier that his cat was Katerina, I swear to you, I don't know if you've seen this video. This mom comes into this boy, he must be like 7 or 8. She says, "What did you name your pet moth?" Have you seen that video? And it's the cutest laugh. He's laughing. He says, "Matthew," and it makes me think of this.
Like it's supposed to be like Matthew.
Yeah, but it's Matthew because it's a pet moth.
That's so funny.
So what are you going to name your cat? Edgar?
Matthew.
Katerina?
Yeah. Oh, literally, I got it now.
Are you kidding me this whole time?
Sorry. I was like, I don't know where you're going with this.
Katerina, Matthew.
Yeah. Okay. All right. My bad. I was going along the lines of Catherine or something like that. Anyways, I got it now. I'm on point.
All right.
His work explores a lot of death, madness. Like I said, I feel like he was kind of a raging madman in his head, and the supernatural, exemplifying his mastery of like this Gothic horror genre. He was born in 1809. So this was only like maybe, how many years difference was that from Horace when he kind of established this?
So Horace was
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, okay, Horace. No, he was in the 1700s though, right?
1764. So
okay.
This is essentially only 40 years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is only 40 years after Horace. And this is only 1816 was when she wrote that.
Yep.
He was alive, even though he was probably only 5. He was alive when Mary Shelley put this book out.
And he probably read it.
Probably.
But he wasn't always, it wasn't always horror for him, because I know he did write some pieces that were like more comedy, more lighthearted.
Yeah, he did more satirical stuff. Yep. Yeah. Which we don't typically remember. When you hear Edgar Allan Poe, you think of just the dark, the Raven, the Telltale Heart. You think of a lot of those different.
Even thinking of Mary Shelley.
Mary Shelley.
This is the freaking podcast today. I need to relearn English. I don't remember her husband or anything, and when we're saying, hey, she's focused on his works, so he's remembered. Have no clue.
Percy, yeah. But do you read poetry?
No, I don't. I did write a poem. We may express it in another podcast in the future. Wow, the one thing I love that you put in here is he's credited with creating the first modern detective story, The Murders in the Rue Morgue. Features the detective C. August Dupin, and his works in this genre laid the foundation for future writers like Arthur Conan Doyle. Did not know that. That is, I knew the book, Murders in the Rue Morgue, but I'm like, wow, did not even place that together. That's cool.
Yeah, Poe had a strong interest. He has strong interest in cryptography that challenged the readers of this magazine. He'd be like, send me ciphers, send me your ciphers. And he claimed he could decode them. Maybe he could have decoded the Zodiac Killer.
Could be. No, that was cool.
Yeah. Despite his literary accomplishments, Poe led a life marked by poverty, personal loss, and struggle with alcoholism. Which seems to be a running theme of authors. What?
I'm rubbing off on you.
Yes. I don't know what it is today. Well, my voice isn't great, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know.
Sometimes my mind is 2 steps ahead and my eyeballs are 14 steps behind because I can't see anything anymore since I started writing. I remember talking with Daniel Middleton. He says, man, you better this was 15 years ago. So you better get some really good glasses if you're going to be on a computer all the time. You're going to ruin your eyesight. And
You'll shoot your eye out.
yes, little did I know. So now this is where I thought it'd get crazy because he died on October
Yes.
7th, 1849 at the age of 40.
Yeah,
And
under strange circumstances that.
Yeah, I mean, like nobody knows because they found him and he was incoherent and he wasn't even wearing his own freaking clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which I wonder, like, how do you know those weren't his clothes? Were they women's clothes?
Oh, maybe.
Whose clothes was he wearing?
So,
I mean, I feel like back then clothes were pretty standard the way they looked. So if he was in poverty, he probably had a lower budget, obviously, for his clothing. Was he wearing something more high end, or was he wearing something that didn't match his gender of the time?
Or was it not the right size? Was there like no way
or was
that's
it too big?
Yes. So
Interesting. Yeah,
of course people
that
wonder.
part I would have to figure that out myself as far as what the situation was.
Oh, I'd love to know because the what you listed here. I'll let you start.
So these
but
are these are some of the, these are some of the theories. These are just theories. Let's see here. Let's move on. So like we said, he struggled with alcoholism. So Poe had a well-documented struggle, and he suggested that maybe he suffered from intoxication and related complications. That doesn't quite give you an idea why he's in someone else's clothes.
Yeah, the second one, cooping. I never even heard of this. This is
yeah.
insane.
So this is where people listen. I'm sure people are like, this is what's happening today.
Yeah, exactly. I've been cooped. Yes.
Oh, so cooping is where people would
they would essentially drug you. They would change.
Yeah, it was a form of voter fraud. Individuals would be kidnapped, they would be drugged or intoxicated, and they would be forced to vote multiple times in a particular candidate's disguise as a disguise. This would explain the strange clothes he was found wearing, but it wouldn't explain his death.
Unless
having him vote like that and then killing.
Unless we have everyone vote 2 or 3 times. Let's make this guy vote 4 times. One more dose is not going to kill him, and then boom.
Yeah, I would be interested to know, like, I mean, because the odd clothing is the mystery. I feel like if he had just died in his own clothing, it'd be like, oh, alcoholism. Yeah, he died or he
had a heart attack or something like that, or epilepsy.
Yeah. But this, you could totally spin this story to be like, there was a serial killer that did this to people.
Mm-hmm.
Were there other people in that time that were found not in their clothing? Because serial killing wasn't a major.
Well, you would think. Well, I mean, but there were. If the people were doing cooping and they were drugged, I'm sure, but they didn't die. So could there have been a serial killer hidden among them that did that and used that as a cover up? I know this one study. This was a medical researcher in 1996 proposed that Poe might have died of rabies. But if you have rabies, you're going to be like, let me change my clothes. That's the only thing that really messes with me. And they may have symptoms that match, but it could have been the drug if he were drugged. It gave the same.
Yeah, and he could have easily had diabetes back then, or who knows what kind of delirium he had. Violence. There's also a speculation that it may have been a violent attack or victimization due to a delicate health of his vulnerable state at that point.
Yeah, but that would, like, if we knew more about the clothes, like you said, then we're like, oh, we know him of a certain type. Why is he like? I know he's not well off to do, but man, he's in rags. What is it? Those are not his clothes. We know him, and maybe the local police knew him. Maybe it was a smaller community and they knew of him, and he would never be caught dead in that. And it could have been, oh, we're going to rob him and take his clothes.
Maybe next year we could start just an episode about Poe, even though whatever. Maybe we can start an episode of solving Poe's murder.
That would be cool.
We could do that in October next year. We're going to solve Poe's murder.
Yes.
So, okay. So I did find out he had his last words. His last words were reportedly, "Lord, help my poor soul," which led these words to be mysterious under the circumstances of his death. Yeah. So what did he do? Someone found out that he's into younger girls.
Well, we already knew that.
Yeah, I know.
See, that one didn't go over my head like Katerina. So
okay, whatever. Okay. Jump me all you want.
This next one actually makes me mad, though. Honestly, even though he was crazy. So his literary rival, Rufus Wilmot Griswold, wrote a scathing obituary after his death, depicting
Yes.
him as a madman and a drunkard, which influenced public perception of Poe for many years. He also published a biography filled with many falsehoods. So I'm like, that does make me mad. Griswold, I
Yeah.
don't care how bad Poe was. I don't care if
Yeah.
he's nuts.
Yeah. Poe was known for but he was known for harsh and candid literary criticism. I'm not
So
surprised
maybe
he did
he
have a few
deserved it.
rivals.
Yeah.
He might have had a few rivals because of his attitude towards other authors.
Write that down. Attitude. That's a new word.
Attitude.
Yeah. Attitude
It's
towards.
attitude
Towards. I inspired
toward.
that because I can't talk today. So
Attitude. Yes.
yeah, attitude.
I am gonna write that one down. Attitudes. Which this earned him a lot of enemies, like I said.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising. So he accused Henry Wadsworth Longfellow of plagiarism. So, which we've talked about having potentially an attorney on here to talk about plagiarism, and how it applies to just in general writing and now AI. So, plagiarism and what became known as the Longfellow War. Specifically, Poe claimed that Longfellow had plagiarized the poem.
The
What is it?
beleaguered city.
Oh my gosh, the beleaguered city. Sounds. Oh, anyways. He argued that Longfellow's work was derived of German poets' work, among others. So he wasn't saying that he plagiarized his own work, like something that Poe had written. So Poe must have been very well read to know that, hey, your work is essentially plagiarizing this other German work. I mean, how crazy would that be? Because I would not know if someone plagiarized. And I know for a fact that there's one author that my daughter loves her work. And I don't want to bring up her name because I feel like I would be kind of like, I don't want to stir that pot.
Yeah.
But she kind of like she had a movie out of her book and she has so many books. I would love for the series to went on. But she was accused of plagiarism, copy pasting from Harry Potter, from Twilight. She was accused of all these things. And I think Stephanie Meyer was even accused of it, but it was pushed out because it was like, no, that didn't happen. Which I'm surprised that you could do that back then with so many works. That would be very hard to prove.
Yeah, but think about the time. We didn't have the internet, and it would be hard to prove unless somebody was well read like Poe. So I'm sure maybe ethical, they weren't really considering it back then as plagiarism. Like, oh, this story really inspired me. I like the way he wrote that. I want to kind of copy and do the same thing. We see it today. We've seen it for years in Kindle.
But I guess, but the thing is, literary historians, they say that they consider the allegations to be unfounded and reflect of Poet's complications of relationship with other writers, and his role as a critic. It wasn't that he really had founded any kind of legitimate reasons to go at Longfellow, but I don't know. Maybe it was just like it sounded like it. I don't know. I mean, at a certain time, and this is completely not in the same realm, but I personally feel like Darwin took credit for someone else's work because there was an Alfred Russell. Oh my gosh, his name just literally. Hold on, I have it right now.
Well, I would say something, but it just slipped my mind. Oh, no. With Poe, thinking back to how he was an editor and he was a book critique, maybe he read way too into it. Maybe he got cocky with it. Oh, I've been a book critique for years now, a book critic, so,
Yeah, but sometimes throwing allegations, some people think, well, there has to be a reason for it. There must be truth to it. Sometimes people believe things even if it's said and they don't fact check it.
Yeah, because honestly, throughout history, you're guilty until you're proven innocent. That's not. That's just how we look at it. It isn't the other way around as it should be.
Yeah. Well, something, and this maybe not be a topic, but we could maybe talk about this. But so Alfred Russel Wallace, that is the guy who he had a fever dream, and when he was going with malaria when he was over in Asia, but he had a dream about natural selection. And he wrote to Darwin. And Darwin freaked out and wanted to publish it before this guy did.
Wow.
But Darwin gave him credit. But Darwin was wealthy. Alfred Wallace was not. It was that whole time, like, did Wallace, just get a little bit of credit? But Darwin ended up getting, like, this guy, like, some funds down the road or whatever. I don't know. It was this is just, Darwin
Yep.
gets so much credit, and it was really Alfred Russel Wallace
Yeah.
who came up with it first.
Don't get me started on Tesla, but that's another story.
Oh my gosh. Well, the original Tesla guy, Nikolai Tesla.
Yes.
Oh yeah. But that happened all the time. People that didn't have money would be taken advantage of. Like, Edison did this. Franklin did this. All those people did that. Like, oh, I have money, so I'm going to take your idea, and you have nothing.
Yeah.
I'll pay you 50 cents on the thousands. Anyways, okay, there was my little rant. Poe's legacy endures through his contributions to the development of American short stories, detective fiction, and the profound influence on American literature, which, again, Poe, there was a serial killer series, I don't know, it had Kevin Bacon in it. And they all were Edgar Allan Poe masks in the beginning of it. It was a serial killer, and he had a cult following, and everybody wore these masks, so you never knew who the person was that did the killing. But it was kind of cool. I liked it.
The first season. I don't remember it. Now you have to find it and tell me.
My husband would be able to remember it, or he'll look it up and whatever. Anyways, do you want to read your poem?
Oh, are we doing it for now? All right.
You could read yours, or we could do it. We could do it later when we'll do an episode purely on poetry.
I think we should do one on poetry and break it down because my poem is slick. Not really.
Yeah.
But
today, even though today we're not filming it on the day, but the day that this airs is Halloween. What are your plans for Halloween? Are you dressing up?
No, she's so busy. I'm so busy with everything I'm doing, but I feel really bad.
You guys have costumes typically together, right?
Yeah.
I've seen the one where you're a nerd and things.
We probably have a dozen costumes in storage. I pulled all of our Halloween stuff out. My wife's a Halloween freak. We bought all these decorations 20 years ago. She sold a bunch. Bought a bunch again. She sold them. And then she said, I wish I would have never sold them. I said, quit selling them. This year, I got her, we couldn't get the 12-foot skeleton, but I found her a 10-foot. She ordered an 8-foot, had a 6-foot, and then she bought another 10-foot thing. And we were going to put them out like a week and a half ago. They're so big that I needed to get like these stakes that would twirl in the ground to hold them in place. I ordered them on Amazon, just got them. And I'm like, I'm not going to put them up now. It's almost
rude.
Well, she's cool with it too.
Okay.
We're going to start next year because we're going to decorate like big time. We still have probably a 15, 20 totes full of Halloween decorations. We got Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers. We got everything. But I don't want to put up 3 or 4 skeletons outside and have to take them down a week later. So
that's funny. So you're going to deny Diane dressing up just for the night?
No, we can go wherever she wants, but she'll be like, I'm tired from work. So, whatever.
Well, our girls, we are being the 3 little kids from Nightmare Before Christmas, and then my husband's being Jack, and I'm being Sally.
That's cool.
Yes, and we like to get like fun costumes. We're all dressing up. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, we always do stupid stuff. Like the one year she dressed up as a kitty cat. She looked so cute. It's like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to be. And I found an orange jumpsuit with a big fake belly and fake teeth. And I was just like, it made no sense. But it was the last minute. She
like
said,
runaway criminal?
Yeah, and the kitty cat.
Well, we usually try to correspond, my husband and I, because he'll usually be a pirate and I'll be a pirate. Or one year he did Batman and I was Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer version.
Yeah, and we did Nerds one year, and she's always like me. I'm always a dork. She always looks cute as can be. So
yes, okay, all right. Well, thank you for listening. Happy Halloween! But if you'd like to follow for more, you can go to the alwaysrightpodcast.com, or you can email us at alwaysrightpodcast@gmail.com. Ask us your questions, share us your stories. If you have a scary short story you'd like us to share next year, put it out there. We'll save it. If you have any questions, you can also email those to us. You can listen to us on Apple Music, Spotify, and on YouTube. And what am I missing? Am I missing something else?
Yeah, when you email, make sure you address it to Karisa, because as of today, you can understand I can't pronounce any words. And if you think that's bad, wait till you read my texts or my messages. We had just discussed this when Suderite had watched one of our podcast episodes, and they reached out, and I'm writing, and I'm the type of person, everything's going so fast. Even I have my glasses on. I read it, checked again. If I don't read something at least 3 times, There'll be typos in it. The same thing when I'm posting on Instagram or something. I'm like, let me go ahead and post it. Let me read it again. Fix the typos I catch. Let me post again. Let me read it again. So, and you're like, hey, let me handle this. Because I don't understand the words coming out of your mouth or your fingertips. So,
Well, today we've had an episode of our voices and our words not being great. But when
yeah.
I'm typing, I will run it through software to be like, okay, let's make this a little bit more professional.
Well, it'd be better. I need to get me some non-scratch, non-dirty glasses. I'm always breaking glasses.
Yeah, when you put your glasses on, literally they look like they're like
dirty,
so
foggy.
dirty.
I can't clean them. My wife is always on me. What it is, I will literally go through a dozen to 20 glasses per year. I don't go get actual glasses because I will lose them. I will break them.
Probably why? Because when you go get actual glasses, they have scratch resistance on them.
Oh, maybe I should break down and do that someday.
Yeah.
I'm
And
afraid
you
I'm
probably
going
will
to
get the prescription that you actually need.
Yeah, but then I'm going to break them. I'm going to lose them. I just like making up excuses. So.
Yes, you are definitely. You should write a book of excuses.
Yes. Why I haven't started writing Age of the Sigils, though I was supposed to start it 10 months ago. That'll be the name of my first book about that.
All right. Thank you for listening. Happy Halloween. And I'm author Karisa DeLay.
I'm author Jaime Vendera, and we'll see you in the next episode.
All right. Always right.